So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to find out more about the candidates and what they represent and how they are planning to better serve the 27th Ward. As Carl Brinson mentioned, my name is Ramel Terry. I am the second vice president for the Chicago West Side NAACP branch. I am also the Political Action Committee chairperson. And so tonight, if you have not already, we have agendas for tonight's event. We also have sample ballots where you can take notes about what you've heard here today and take that into the polls with you. We just ask that everyone is respectful tonight as we have questions being answered by both of the candidates. And we just want to make sure that you all are educated and informed. And I just thank you all again for coming out. If you have any questions, you have to write them down because we only have the 2 mics, so they will be asked by the moderator. Depending on time, we may not get through all of the questions, but we do ask that both the aldermen and the other candidates stay here to answer some of those questions that may not get asked during this event. So thank you all again, and let's go ahead and get this started. I'm going to introduce our wonderful moderator. You've probably seen him around all across Chicago, and this is Mr. Dwayne Truss.
Okay, who I owe money to since I got that lukewarm response? Okay, then. I'm sorry about that 8th grade loan you gave me, so you know there's some serious interest coming to you, right? So if you don't want to give me, if you're going to give me a lukewarm reception, I want you to give an enthusiastic reception to Reverend Paul Jakes here for opening up his doors for us. Now I'm going to see how enthusiastic y'all are going to be when we start looking for donations a little later for the church because, you know, electricity and gas isn't free, as you know, so we need to go ahead and show our appreciation sometimes when our ministers open up their doors because some ministers, this is Chicago, it's politics, they don't open up their doors that easily. So I want you to keep that in mind. So we're going to get right to it. I'm going to step across here. If I trip and fall, at least make sure I'm okay before you laugh, okay? Now, one of the things we do with NAACP, where's Phyllis Logan? Make sure you don't tell Phyllis I did that, okay? That's an inside joke. But one of the things that we do with the NAACP is that we just don't just do these things, but we want to make sure people are educated and informed about the impact on, you know, the city government on your lives. You know, this is something that we do because you pay the taxes. These services are supposed to come to you and the people, and it's like you can say it's the taxpayers' money, and the elected officials are the stewards of that money, right? All right. So, as I always like to say, politics and democracy are not always sexy or pretty, but my wife is. You know, our democracy is always evolving. You know, some people get discouraged, don't like it, whatever the case it may be, but it is what it is. If you don't participate, somebody's going to get elected. Now, the purpose of this is to assist citizens to better understand the role of the alderman as a member of the city council. The City Council votes on all proposed loans, grants, bond issues, land acquisitions, and sales, zoning changes, traffic control issues, mayoral appointees, and other financial appropriations. I like to call it legalized theft of taxpayers' money. That was supposed to be a joke. I'm supposed to get a response from that one, but no, it's not illegal. The legislative powers of the City Council are granted by the state legislature and by the home rule provision of the Illinois Constitution. Within specified limits, the City Council has the general right to exercise any power and perform any function pertaining to its government and affairs, including but not limited to the power to regulate for the protection of the public health, safety, welfare, to license, to tax, to incur debt, and more about the debt later. We like to, you know, haven't corrected this yet in terms of grammar, but it's legislate, appropriate, regulate, coordinate, advocate, and investigate. Now, who is the current city clerk? Do we want to do civics lesson here tonight, or you all know that? Mendoza, okay. The Chicago office of the city clerk is the most visited office in Chicago government. They provide the following services: collecting, docketing, and securely storing the city official records, namely city council legislation, providing public access to legislative laws, records, and reports, selling city vehicle stickers for approximately 1.3 million vehicles, funds from the city's wheel tax help maintain Chicago's 4,000 miles of streets, selling residential zoning parking permits, issuing automatic amusement device license, administering kids ID and medical ID programs, accepting passport applications, administering the city's dog registration program. This is from the city clerk's website. Okay, who's the city treasurer? Kurt Summers is currently the city treasurer. He was appointed, I believe, and he has to stand for election for 2015, okay? And the office of the city treasurer is a custodian manager of all cash investments for the city of Chicago, the 4 city employee pension funds, and the Chicago Teachers Union Pension Fund. Additionally, the treasurer's office manages a number of programs that promote economic development in Chicago's neighborhood. Again, we're going to get to that pension issue along with the debt, okay? Okay, how much does an alderman earn? Everybody failed this test the other night, so we're going to go ahead and gold you all into it. Anybody want to take a quick guess? Well, of course, it's like everybody else last night, you're all wrong. It was a Tuesday night, right? It varies. It varies. It ranges from $106,558 to $117,333 for the most senior member, and the low end being of newly elected aldermen. And for the record, some aldermen are, some didn't take the pay raise, and some do. So. And Alderman controls a $1.3 million automatic menu money for capital improvements, pretty much discretionary when it comes to street lights, street paving, sidewalks, etc. The budgeted staff of 3 members. When we did this before, there was they were supposed to take a cut in their contractual for contracted personnel to help fund the office of or the budget analysis person that they're supposed to do an independent review of the budget. So that's why we got that range, $23,000 to $26,000. And they get $73,280 for ward operations. The total of Chicago city budget. Some of y'all was at the forum Tuesday night. Anybody want to take a stab at it? Now we're talking total budget. The city's total budget is $8.9 billion for the capital B. The operations budget is $3.5 billion. And here you can see, how many of y'all think property taxes are too high? Y'all just failed that test. I'm gonna tell you why it's not, well, it's sitting right there. Property tax is pretty much 10% in terms of all revenue funds. And you see where the different funds come from when it comes to city budget, you say property tax, but sewer and water makes up 13% of the revenue. So that's a significant, piece of the pie right there. So, and then you can see the different, how the pie chart cuts up when it comes to the revenue, right? This is, now, again, people say property taxes are too high, right? How many people, and I'm going to refute you on that, okay? How many people believe that we're shortchanging public safety with the property taxes? Good, because somebody should be looking at this because it says it right there. The property tax levy pays one of two things: debt service, pensions. Property tax, once upon a time I thought property taxes went to public safety, which is police and fire, right? So you're talking debt service and pension for the most part, with the property taxes are, paying in the budget. This is kind of like the issue when I was trying to make some adjustments. If you look at the big thing that steps out, what kind of grabs your attention real quick? Those who are not colorblind. Anybody here colorblind? Too bad. But what captures your attention? Debt service. Debt service spikes significantly, right? And then you see that other red line. Who all got those red light camera tickets? So that's part of the forfeiture, fines, and penalties that's also steadily increasing. Now, one thing that I tried to change, I didn't do a good job of, is that it was an interesting thing. Again, we all learn, okay, is that the property tax levy has not changed for the last 4 years. It has not. So those who say their property taxes got higher or increased, not really, because the city's property tax levy has been base levy has been $797 to $98 million a year. What's been happening over the last couple of years is that TIF dollars, as TIF surplus dollars, was being returned back into the budget, and they'll add that to the base, because once those TIF districts expire, the money goes back into the budget. But property taxes have not risen in the last 3-4 years, okay? So, but you say debt service has. We always talk about those darn TIF districts. You have to just illustrate the geography in which the TIF districts cover. And TIF Illumination Project had documented there was like $1.7 billion with a capital B in TIF's accounts for the city of Chicago as of January 2014. We don't have a breakdown of what's committed or what's surplus, but just to let you know, at that time, we don't have the 2014 figures because they're auditing those statements now. These are two sources which you can, get additional information about TIFs, because that's like another 3-hour meeting, right? So one thing real quick, even though your property tax bill shows 53 cents for every dollar goes to the schools, the aldermen do not. Do I have to have y'all to repeat that, or y'all good with it? They do not have legislative authorities over schools, okay? Now, one of the things we talk about that there's different components of the city. It may be the city of Chicago budget, but there's other, entities that the city, city of Chicago has authority over, and that's Chicago Housing Authority, $1 billion budget. Chicago Park District. I'm quite sure, y'all know the Park District was in the news lately a lot, right? We got the Chicago Transit Authority, and we got appointees to the CTA, et cetera. So these individuals are conferred by the city council, meaning that, the committeemen, vet them, and then, the committees vet those individuals, and the aldermen go ahead and vote for those individuals to be placed on these different boards and commissions. Just again, we don't think about City College of Chicago, McPeer, Public Building Commission. And we always ask that question about how many West Siders are serving on these boards and commissions, because those individuals are going to be the ones, think about it, if you're going to be regional about things, right? So we got to look at ask those questions. So if you want any more research, whatever the case may be, 4 years ago, some of the candidates were so off for base, we told them, you guys need to go ahead and learn what Google is and use it, because it's great in terms of research and information. And then there's the City of Chicago website, which pretty much where all this was lifted from. The couple of takeaways I want to throw out to you is the fact that there's a $557 million pension payment that was not included in this year's budget that's due. And what are one of the two things property taxes pay for? Who said that? Pensions. So if you got a payment due of $557 million, and then your levy has been $797 million for the last 3-4 years, and you got this money due, all 50 aldermen and the mayor have some tough decisions to make, and we need to be the citizens, pushing them to that in terms of what's going to happen. And also another thing with the city budget, one thing that took our attention is the fact that 2014 overtime budget, they burnt up the overtime budget with police overtime by I think August, September last year, and this year there's like $71 million budgeted to overtime for this year, meaning that if you exceed that, that means there's a deficit, right? And the deficit has to be paid. These are things that again, that we want you all to be informed about and to think about. This is not the way we're doing this is that, hey, these are facts. And if they're not facts, somebody check me right now. Because I like to say ignorance should be listed as a disease on the CDC website because it is contagious and easily spread. So if I'm sitting up here telling you facts and lies and what have you, check me also. But at the same time, we need to have these tough discussions amongst ourselves as well as with our elected officials. Now that's a personal thing in the 29th Ward. So I thank you very much for indulging me. I also got to thank, my civic mom, Jackie Levy, Valerie Lynn of the Lawndale Alliance, and the Chicago West Side branch of the NAACP, especially Ramil Terry, for the hard work that she's done for putting all these things, because this is like we got 5, 6 of them. We're all throughout the West Side of Chicago, including the mayoral forum. So just give a quick round of applause. And And I thank you very much for indulging me. I hope that you learned something out of it. And so we're going to turn it over to the panel to go ahead and ask these questions. And again, my job is kind of like to be that guy to hopefully keep us on point and keep things moving, okay? And if I fall or trip, don't laugh, okay? At least wait till make sure I'm okay, okay?
So thank you, Dwayne. So really quickly, the way that this panel will work, it will be myself, Ramel Terry. I'm introducing myself again. I'm the Political Action Committee Chairperson with the Chicago West Side NAACP branch. I'm also the second vice president. I also have here Alex Lyons, who's also a member of the Chicago West Side branch NAACP. And just want to throw it out there, I thank you guys for the applause, but I want you guys to realize that I'm a volunteer. I have a regular 9 to 5. My son is up here falling asleep. So I really do care about my community because I'm not getting paid for this. So I really hope that you guys are learning something, engaging in this, and I hope that you come out to a lot of our other events because that's a lot of my free time that I'm sacrificing. But I love my people, and so this is why I do what I do. So all the questions that we have for the candidates, we will also give you the time frame. I believe Dennis will give you the flag of when you need to stop, and Dwayne will make sure to say thank you or time. So we really want to respect that. So for the first question we have, tax increment financing has diverted taxpayer funds for public services like schools, parks, and public safety to private sector economic development, both in the city center to a lesser extent to promote economic development in blighted neighborhoods. According to the Civics Lab's TIF Illumination Project, there is over $1.7 billion in Chicago TIF funds. Do you support returning uncommitted TIF funds to their originating tax bodies? Why or why not? You have 1 minute to answer this question, and this will go to the alderman first.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to give honor to God. I want to thank the pastor for allowing us to use this place, and I'd like to also thank the NAACP for putting this on. We have utilized TIFs in many ways. I mean, just down the street, we utilized the TIF for the Westinghouse High School. Down the street, on the other side, to the right, we used it for the Richard M. Daley Library. We have voted every year for about 4 years to give TIF money back and put it back in the budget. And we also have TIFs that have expired. One in the Near West area has expired and it went back to the regular general funds of the city. So yeah, I have no problem with TIF money going back to the coffers. We have utilized TIF money on several occasions to help to balance our budget by putting the money back in the coffers. And I think it's an appropriate use when it's needed. But also, I think at the same time, we use TIFs for economic developments in communities where we normally don't get funds to be able to do things. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's a pleasure to be here. I would be in favor of returning the TIF funds. The TIF program has been highly abused in the 27th Ward. The key word is blighted communities. Alderman Burnett gave $7 million to a billionaire developer at Halstead and Madison. That's not a blighted community. $10 million went to fund the Jesse White Center in Near North. That's not a blighted community. So the TIF program can be beneficial if it's used appropriately. Unfortunately, in the 27th Ward, it has not been used effectively. It's been used as a handout, both for the alderman and the mayor in the past. So yeah, I would like to return the funds. It's been, it's stealing taxpayer money, and it's turned into a slush fund for both the alderman and the mayor.
Thank you very much. Next question from the panelists.
The Chicago Inspector General estimated that a penny tax on financial transactions at the Chicago Board of Trade would generate over $37 million annually and would serve to limit speculative trading that in part led to the recent Great Recession. Do you support a financial transaction tax on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and Chicago Board of Trade? Yes or no? 30 seconds.
Yes, I would. I mean, we simply cannot keep taxing the working class. Everybody's been taxed to death, and we have to look at alternative revenue sources, and I think a tax on financial institutions would be appropriate.
Yes, I'm open-minded about that, but we need to evaluate it and make sure that it doesn't hurt the city with businesses moving out of the city.
Question?
So many homeowners and seniors are on fixed incomes and are concerned about rising property taxes while commercial real estates get breaks on their property tax assessments. Do you support a property tax increase to fund essential services, and why? Do you believe the property tax system is fair? Why or why not? You have 1 minute and 30 seconds for that question, and that's to you, Alderman.
Thank you. I think that I may have gotten some of your question.
Would you like for to repeat it?
Yeah, can you repeat it, please?
So do you support a property tax increase to fund essential services, and why? And do you believe the property tax system is fair? Why or why not?
All right. So I believe that as far as property taxes go, that I'm against raising property taxes for the time being. I think we've been burdened too much in our community. I don't think people need any more property taxes. I know that we have, now a lot of folks don't know that when the city don't raise property taxes, other property taxes get raised, which is the Park District and a whole bunch of other entities throughout the county. So I'm against property taxes being raised. I think we need to find other alternatives to be able to put in that pot and work on those things. Thank you.
Alderman, again, what would be those alternative taxes you would look at?
Not necessarily alternative taxes, but there have to be some alternative things. I mean, we just need to be creative. There's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of things that's been looked at by the city. One is looking at commuter taxes, which you all just spoke about the Wall Street tax is a possibility. There's other ways of bringing income to the city of Chicago, and we just need to continue to find those ways. But also, with the economy changing and the stock market getting better, a lot of things are happening better for the city. Our bond rating is going down, and we can refinance some things to bring back some money to the city.
Thank you very much, Alderman. And I want to say, because again, as I explained to both gentlemen, is that, you know, when we don't get those specific questions, in a sense, I'm going to be that guy. So, Mr. Vikinga?
I agree with Alderman Burnett. We cannot raise property taxes. Chicago has the second highest property taxes in the country. Chicago's, every time we're trying to balance a budget, our city legislators just keep increasing taxes. Alderman Burnett just supported a 56% tax increase on each person's cell phone bill. Increasing taxes is not the way to solve our budgets. We have to be fiduciary responsible with balancing our budget. So no, I'm not in favor of property tax increase. I'm not in favor of any tax increase currently. Chicagoans have been taking it hard enough, and we got to start having responsible legislators that look at alternative sources of funding, as well as just balancing the budget. There's going to have to be some cost cuts instead of just keep increasing.
Okay, now, in one sense, you know, again, I got to be that guy. I think you said earlier that you would support a Wall Street tax. Yes, sir. Now you kind of say that you don't support any tax increase?
No, that's on corporations. I'm talking about for the citizens of Chicago.
Well, I mean, we talking all resources in terms of looking at whether it's corporation or private cities or whatever.
I'm for a LaSalle Street tax increase, or tax. I'm not for any property or consumer tax increase.
So you mentioned, but you mentioned in budget cuts, so specifically where would you cut?
I mean, there's a lot of things we have to look at. I personally think that 50 aldermen in the city is inflated. I think we could probably do away with half that number, as long as we have a resourceful and competent back office. I think we could do away with probably half the amount of aldermen we have. Chicago has more than New York, LA, so, I mean, there's ways. I mean, I think cutting the number of aldermen by half probably would help quite a bit.
All right, well, you know, again, for the sake of time, I'm gonna come back to that, because when you say cutting, you know, again, the automatic salaries being about $100,000, and if you talking about 25, we only talking like, you know.
Yeah, when you add the menu money and you add the personnel.
Not going quite, well, the menu money's probably gonna go away because taxpayers love their paved streets and their sidewalks. So we're gonna go on to the next question.
Over the past 4 years, a number of charter schools have opened while public schools have closed. Do you support the expansion of charter schools? Why? If no, what have you done or are doing to advocate for a moratorium on charter schools? 1 minute.
I am for a moratorium on charter schools. It's based on recent studies. It's already been plagued with corruption. What I've done is I've actively got petitions for an elected school board. I think that's a step in the right direction. I think community residents need to be deciding the future of our kids' education. Currently, we have a mayoral appointed school board, and that's operating with a political agenda. That's not operating with the educational agenda, in my opinion. So I think the first step is we have to have a elected school board, one that I support, one that I do not believe the alderman does support, but I'll let him touch on that.
So was the question elected school board or charter schools?
Charter schools, and what are you doing to support a moratorium?
Why don't you repeat it one more time?
Okay, sure. I can repeat it again. Do you support the expansion of charter schools? Why? If no, what have you done or are doing to advocate for a moratorium on charter schools?
So I try not to be a dictator. I listen to the community. If the community wants charter schools, I support charter schools. I grew up in Cabrini Green. My feeling about charter schools is people need to have choices. When I grew up in Cabrini Green, I had to go to Wales High School. I didn't have a choice. Even if it was violent, if it wasn't safe, I had to go there. Rich folks don't have to do that. Rich people have choices. I think people that have children that go to public schools, they need to have choices. I see charter schools as a social justice issue, but the community have to decide if they want it or not. But at the same time, while we put them in, we have to make sure that our regular public schools continue to grow and do better at the same time.
Again, for clarification, one thing, we want to say is that one thing that CPS does prior to every year around December 17th, 18th, you can apply for options for knowledge schools, and also there's an NCLB provision that if from No Child Left Behind, that if a parent is not happy with their school and they can put their child in a better performing school, they can do that. And just understanding that with charter schools, you still have to go through a lottery process, so it's not automatic like you can just go to that school. So, I mean, we're just putting clarification out there in terms of what's what, okay? So, next question from the panel.
So, this question is really quick. So it's basically, do you support an elected school board? And I guess for Mr. Bukinga, a little bit more on why, since you've already established that you do. And so that is the question. Do you support an elected school board and why?
Actually, believe we start off with Alderman Burnett because Ms. Bukinga had the last question. So you want to repeat the question or are you good?
No, you asked, do we support an elected school board? He's asking you how much time. 30 seconds. I introduced the ordinance. I signed on to the ordinance for elected school boards. But after seeing so much conversation about the elected school boards, I'm a little concerned. There was an article, editorial in the paper the other day, and I like the editorial when it says 50-50. When it says an elected school board and an appointed school board, because you want to make sure that you have some professional people in place to be able to help with what's happening with our schools.
I mentioned I support an elected school board just for the sake, I think, the folks in the community that are sending their kids to these schools should be making decisions based on, what quality schools these students need. I think the mayoral appointed school board has been, there's been corruption already with it. You just saw the Sun-Times a few weeks ago. It's about money and a political agenda. It's not about the students.
From the privatization of infrastructure such as the Skyway to parking meters, to public services from custodial, management, and professional services, municipal governments have attempted to save taxpayer money by outsourcing the provisions of publicly financed services. This strategy has a track record of failure. Critics argue that the only savings derive from cutting corners on quality and pushing workers into poverty. Do you support publicly operated and publicly financed public services? As an alderman, will you support the privatization, transparency, and accountability ordinance to create a fair process to decide whether to outsource services? 1 minute.
Yes, I will, and also I signed on to the ordinance to have a moratorium on privatization in the city.
Yes, I mean, I would want a moratorium on privatization. As you mentioned, each measure so far has been an utter failure. All it's done is form a new taxation on us residents that are using public services. The parking meter deal, twice, the alderman supported, was an utter failure. The tollway, yeah, I mean, we can't just keep prioritizing these assets. What I would look at in the future is probably a blended approach where the city remains control and maybe like a 55% ownership if we need an influx of capital. And I have a background in economic development and finance, so I think I could add some creative solutions. But no, I'm not for any. Based on the city council's track record, I wouldn't see us privatizing anything anytime soon.
So the City of Chicago has a goal of ensuring that 25% of their contractors are minority-owned businesses and 5% are women-owned businesses. Unfortunately, less than 10% of the companies doing business with the city are black. In CPS, less than 3% of the companies doing business with them are black firms from the local West Side communities. What are some strategies the city and sister agencies like CPS and the PAR District can realistically implement to improve their track record of hiring black contractors? This goes beyond construction contracts. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds for this question.
I think it was Mr. Buckinger's turn on that one. We alternated between the two on the questions.
Sure. I'm taking a much more proactive approach that the alderman has taken historically. As I've gone through this process, there's a lot of qualified folks in the community that aren't working, and there's a lot of development going on in the ward. So why aren't people working? It's because there's no follow-through and there's no requirement. I'm not going to have a recommendation that you hire people in the community. It's going to be a fair requirement. You're not going to put a shovel in the ground. You're not going to open or relocate your business in the 27th Ward unless you hire a firm, and I'm going to work with the community on what that number is. It should be at least 50%, but we need to have requirements, not recommendations, because recommendations fail.
Thank you. So your question was, should the city and the Park District and other government agencies hire minority contractors and make sure black folks get jobs? Well, I've been one of the strongest advocates for fighting for African Americans to get employment and contracts in the city of Chicago. One in particular is with the banks. The banks and the bonding companies who do business with the city of Chicago is top heavy with all white males. They don't hire any women, they don't hire any African Americans. I passed an ordinance just recently, myself and Alderman Latasha Thomas, we just passed an ordinance to make them, when they come before us, they have to show us how many African Americans do they have working for them. And all of these banks, including the one that he worked for, is top heavy with all white males. They don't have any women, nor do they have any African Americans.
Mr. Buckinger, no, Mr. Buckinger, no. No. Next panelist question.
Remember when the Olympic MOU was drafted in the event that Chicago got the Olympics? There were provisions for local hiring, affordable housing, minority and women-owned business contracting. Moving forward, would you support the MOU as a standard for expanding opportunities for black contractors? 1 minute.
Yes, I will. And then, some of you may or may not recall back when they did the MRO, the African-American aldermen held it up. We held up the vote until we were able to assure that some things were in place for African-American contractors. And we will continue to do that.
Yes, I most certainly would. And I'm not going to just talk about proposals, I'm going to follow through with them, because we could put all these proposals through, and history shows it doesn't get accomplished. So we don't need to just pass these ordinances, we need to follow through with them. That's the alderman's job, and that's something I will be doing very, very efficiently.
Thank you. Next question.
Do you support the UIC North Lawndale bid for the Obama Presidential Library? What are some tangible ways you have shown your support or will show your support for the West Side bid? You have 1 minute for this question.
I believe Mr. Bakinga.
I would need to go to more community meetings. I think I haven't admittedly attended any of the community meetings on this topic. I'm going to make all my decisions based on community input and what's best for the community. I think having the library there would be a tremendous asset economically. I think it would provide jobs, and it could help make the West Side what we need to turn into, being a staple of the city of Chicago. So I see myself supporting it, but I wouldn't make any final decisions before we get together as a community on it.
Thank you. Yes, I will. I support it. Matter of fact, just Tuesday in the city council, we voted so that we would allow for a library to come to the city and use parkland if they had to. I'm on the commission for, I'm on the commission for, I'm sorry.
Please be respectful.
Okay. They keep changing the name, so I get a little mixed up. So I'm on the Choose Chicago Commission, which is about bringing tourism to the city of Chicago, and we work very strongly with everyone trying to bring these type of things to the city so that we can get tourism in our city, because we make a lot of money off of tourism, and we need this in our city. And I know the Park District folks are concerned about it, but I feel like we can get a Obama library, we can always get a new park. So we need the Obama library in the city of Chicago.
Thank you. If I can pause for a second. For clarification, Chicago has two bids that's a finalist. That's the University of Chicago bid, there's the UIC North Lawndale bid, in which if selected, the site would be Roosevelt and Caution, the former illegal dump site. And there's Hawaii, and there's Columbia University in New York. Next question.
In the event that Chicago gets the Obama Presidential Library, what mechanisms can be put in place to ensure that local residents and businesses can take advantage of what the library has to offer while preventing displacement of current residents?
Alderman Burnett, 1 minute. 1 minute.
Well, we can put it in the plan development. Myself and the other elected officials, we can make sure in the ordinance before it gets voted on in order to be built, that we can put it in the plan development that they have things in place to be able to hire African Americans and people that live in that community in order to be able to work on the library. So I'm dedicated to doing that. We're ready to do that. All of us are already talking about being prepared to do that. We're already talking to the mayor's office about it.
Hold on, Alderman Burnett. Is there any specific issue, the things that you've got in place to prevent displacement of residents?
Well, the UIC one, from what I understand, don't displace residents. The one that displaces residents is more on the south side. You know, I haven't been really involved and engaged in the one on the south side. I'm more concerned about the one over here on the west side.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first step is to put in the plan development, but again, these also take follow-through and follow-up. So, I mean, big projects like this go through multiple different steps with funding, development, and there needs to be audits as we go through each step to make sure there's not displacement, to make sure that the contractors are honoring the job requirements. I mean, the first step is a plan development, but then there needs to be follow-through by the aldermen and the rest of the city councils to make sure that we're fulfilling that no citizens are being displaced, but more importantly, making sure that everyone's working on the project from the community. And how you do that is you have to have a structure. And what I plan on having a very transparent website so that everything's tracked and that we're making sure that we're hitting the numbers we're supposed to be hitting, rather than just saying we're going to do something, we're going to actually do it.
And for clarification, no taxpayer dollars are going to go, if selected, if the library is selected, if Chicago is selected to have the library placed there, no taxpayer dollars will be used for the Obama Foundation. Foundation has raised the money for the library.
In 2004, the Chicago Housing Initiative proposed the Keeping the Promise ordinance. This ordinance, which will decrease the homeless population, provides oversight of the Chicago Housing Authority and advance the city's affordable housing plan. This ordinance will not cost the city a single dollar. Would you support this ordinance to provide the much-needed oversight of the CHA? There's 1 minute for this question.
I believe it's you, Mr. Vikinga.
Absolutely, I would. I mean, the city needs more oversight in each of the endeavors, especially when it comes to the CHA. The replacement housing has been a major disaster in the 27th Ward, especially in the Cabrini Green area. Folks have been promised replacement housing for years that has not been honored. So yeah, we need more oversight with CHA because we're not fulfilling promises we're making. And gentrification is great and all, but it's not a good thing if it's displacing people. We have to stop displacing people and make the city and community work for everyone. And I would not only have support oversight, I would personally get involved because I'm a little bit, I'm quite displeased with the displacement going on in the city, especially in this 27th Ward.
Thank you very much. Of course, I'm a co-sponsor of that ordinance, one of the lead co-sponsors of that ordinance. Matter of fact, I was just at a press conference with them Tuesday about this ordinance. If you all saw me on the news, we've been fighting for this for some time. CHA is holding on to a lot of money. They are leaving a lot of people in limbo, and they need to give up that money so we can finish the developments that we started over in all of the developments in our ward, not just Cabrini Green, and Henry Horner, and in the Rockwell area also. So yeah, I'm 100% standing behind that ordinance, but what I have been doing is sitting down with them and the mayor's office, and we've been negotiating on trying to make this work. And I'm the one who led to get the compromise going on and the conversation going on.
Participatory budgeting is an innovative process used to efficiently and democratically budget dollars for public needs. This process of community members deciding how to use their own dollars is successful all over the world, including in Brazil and New York. In Chicago, aldermen and alderwomen are setting an example by implementing their discretionary funds through participatory budgeting. People who live, work, and attend school in these aldermanic districts come together to decide how to allocate the $1 million of discretionary funds. What do you think about community members in your district / ward coming together to improve the community through participatory budgeting? If you are elected or re-elected, will you use participatory budgeting to allocate your $1 million discretionary fund?
Alderman Burnett, a minute. A minute and a half.
Okay, thank you. I have one concern with participating budgeting. Because it's something that happens ward-wide, we have a very diverse ward. And unfortunately, in some parts of the ward, people are not as outspoken or engaged with the process, and I never want one group getting more than the other group or making a decision for the other group. But what we have done with participating budgeting, we have participating budgeting right now over here in the West Humboldt Park area with our TIFs. And I allow for the community to do participating budgeting with the TIF over in this area so they can control what they want to spend on, and we're looking to do that in other areas in the ward. But just with that 1.3 million, which is not a lot of money, it's not a lot of money to cover the whole ward because it goes just like that. Just for one street is over $100,000 to fix. Thank you.
Yeah, I would take a little bit of a more proactive approach and make sure that every single dollar is part of a participatory budget. If people aren't involved, that's Alderman's job to get people involved. We have to get everyone involved in the community. So yeah, every single dollar of the million or 1.3 million, I would offer to have participatory budgeting. Furthermore, I would like to introduce the same ordinance for the TIF program. Everyone has to understand the participatory budget for the 1.3 million of Aldermanic funds and the TIF. This is your guys' money. It's not my job to decide what to do with it. It's everyone's job. So yeah, every single dollar is going to be part of a participatory budget because it's everyone's money and everyone needs to have a say in it, not me.
Thank you. Quick clarification, this is the annual budget, $1.3 million, that the alderman has discretion over the use of this money on an annual basis.
So the next question says, if you were to introduce a new ordinance tomorrow, what would it be and why? And you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer that question.
Mine would be regarding the job hiring. There's too many folks in the 27th Ward that are not working. I need to put together a firm requirement to get people working again, not just on the construction jobs, that's a big part of it, but in corporations too. So the first ordinance I would introduce for the ward is to make sure, and again, I'm going to consult the community, but I'm thinking at least a 50% requirement that if you're doing a new project in the 27th Ward, 50% of your workforce is coming from the 27th Ward. There's too many developments going on in the 27th Ward, and the unemployment rate is way too high. That doesn't make any sense, except for we're letting big corporations and big developers come into our town, do all their work, and have their employees come in from the suburbs, heck, even from other states. I've been driving the construction sites, and I see Wisconsin, Illinois. This is Alderman's job to oversee that. And I'm going to be introducing strict ordinance to make sure folks doing projects in our ward are hiring within our ward.
Quick clarification. Are you talking public dollars or public and private dollars, or?
Oh, I mean, even private dollars are coming in. The developer still has to meet with the alderman to get zoning and planning points.
Okay, I just wanted to get that, I just wanted to get that clarification of public-private. Okay, all right, thank you. Alderman Burnett.
Yeah, probably one of the first things that I would like to do, and I've been getting ready to do this in the city council on many occasions. One is to have anyone who do business with the city have to have diversity in their company. If you don't have diversity in your company, you can't do business with the city. Walmart does that. Walmart does not do business with anyone who do not have diversity. If Walmart can do it, if corporations can do it, the city of Chicago can do it. But the thing is, we can introduce things, but we also have to have a lot of people on. We have to have at least 26 votes on board in order to make it happen. But that's what I like to do, and that's what I want to do.
With all due respect, you had 20 years to do it.
So, thank you all for,
Hold on for a second.
I get it, I'll handle it. Can you be respectful? Thank you. Now we'll have questions from the audience, and as it was already mentioned, we'll try to get through as many as possible in respect of time and the sanctuary. And so Rebecca Raines will ask those questions. And of course, again, we're asking that the candidates remain here so that if you guys' questions were not answered, you can talk to them afterwards.
The questions, as I was saying at the door, is the questions were to be written down and given to me so that they could be screened. Can you hear me? So that no, we're not going to pass out cards. That's been closed now. So I have the questions here. If you want to ask a question at this point, you can come and speak with him in the front here. But right now, I'm going to get started on the questions that we do have written down. I tried to explain that to everyone as we came in. I'm sorry if someone missed it. The questions will not be asked openly, yes. Okay, yes. The reason why we didn't want to have that open is because we do want to keep this down to a certain time, and I'm sorry, I do understand that there is clarification, and that's what Ramel was speaking about in terms of after this is over, you'll have an opportunity to speak with the candidates. Hopefully they will spend some time here so that you can get clarification on certain points. And
you know what? At this time,
no more
we're going to go into this. We clarified it. Go ahead with the question.
okay.
Go ahead and ask the question.
For our question one, every question that we have is for individuals. So what I'm going to say is to each individual. I'm going to call your name. You have 30 seconds to respond. I understand that some of these questions might have more than a 30-second response, but please try to fit it in, okay? The first one is for Gabe. Your voting record indicates that you have not voted since 2004. You failed to vote in the last 3 presidential elections for president. How can you ask the electorate to do for you what you have not done, and why should we? I will repeat the question. For Gabe, your voting record indicates that you have not voted since 2004. You failed to vote in the last 3 presidential elections for president. How can you ask the electorate to do for you what you have not done, and why should we?
That's a great question. The last presidential election, I was actually out of the country. I know that's not a great reason, but I was out of the country. The previous one, I had a family travesty. I didn't vote. I mean, I've had 2 slip-ups. I made a mistake. Yeah, you're right. I could have voted absentee. I didn't.
We let him answer the question. We all know what the law is and what the rules are. We all know those things exist, so just let each candidate answer the question without adding to their answer, please.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good question. Like I said, 2 terms ago, I was dealing with a family travesty. Last term, I was out of the country. I didn't vote. Again, it was an oversight on my part. I was not able to do so.
Thank you. To Walter Burnett, what can you do to help the middle class, and what can you do to stop violence in the 27th Ward? 30 seconds, let him answer it alone, please.
Well, we are doing things to help the middle class. We're trying to bring more economic development to the community, trying to bring affordable housing to the neighborhood so that people can have housing, but also when you build up the density in the community, then more jobs come, more people come and spend money, and that helps the middle class. So those are the things we've been doing in the community for a long time. We turned Old Town around, Greek Town around, Near West. All of these areas have been growing, and we're still pushing forward, and there's a lot of things going on in this area. Now, the other question was, okay.
To Gabe, I have seen your literature throughout the ward and community, but none of it states your plans for the ward. What are your plans, and how would you execute and/or implement them under the current legislative system?
The first is just with economic development. The last 10 years, I've worked at a nonprofit doing small business lending and economic development. I've personally been the largest small business lender in Chicago each of the past few years. This is all just based on my work ethic and integrity, and I'm gonna bring that same work ethic and integrity to the 27th Ward. One thing I'm an expert in is creating jobs. I've created thousands of jobs over my 10-year career, a lot of which were for businesses that couldn't obtain traditional big bank financing. So I'm gonna bring that same attribute to the community. The 27th Ward need jobs.
15-second extension.
So that's what I plan on doing. That's on the forefront. I'm an expert in that field. That's what I've been doing the last 10 years. The 27th Ward desperately needs jobs and economic development, and I'm an expert in that.
Okay. Hold on. If we don't have order, we can't have a forum. So that's why we're going to not acknowledge, nobody shout out, everybody's fair. Okay. For Gabe. Would you explain the difference between an elected school board and an appointed school board, and how our children would benefit academically under the system you would support?
Again, why I support an elected school board is people from the community are making the decisions. These aren't decisions being made by the mayor and his buddies. These are decisions being made by folks in the community that have children going to these schools, which is why I support an elected school board. Again, it's been all over recent news. The mayoral appointed school board has been plagued with corruption. The mayoral appointed school board has a political agenda, and it's about the directors making money off our students, which is highly inappropriate.
Okay. Numbers.
30 seconds is going.
Number Burnett. What you say?
Please.
Alderman Burnett.
I'll be the first one to say please. Just ignore. If somebody shout out, please don't go there with them, okay? I understand that.
I think we've been equal with not taking anybody from the audience, and so let's respect that. Alderman Burnett, why hasn't the question of an elected school board not been brought before the city council by our black elected official?
Well, we did bring it before the city council. We introduced an ordinance. What happens when you introduce an ordinance, a committee chairman have to bring it to the committee. Well, sometimes the committee chairman don't bring it to the committee for a while because they be trying to work it out. and trying to get the support of the administration. And thus far, they haven't been able to get the support of the administration in order to bring it to the committee so that we can have the discussion and vote on it. But I signed on for an elected school board. But again, I think that an elected school board is...
That's your time, sir.
Okay.
Okay, for the sake of clarity, so that everyone understands, is that right now that aldermen do not have a legislative authority over the schools. Pretty much what's been going on would be to create advisory referendums throughout the city that would be used to go to the state legislature. The state legislature has to go ahead and vote on it, and it has to be signed by the governor. So we want to make sure that you clear. Well, that's why we emphasize that aldermen do not have legislative authorities over the school. What they were talking about at that time was pretty much using the bully pulpit of the aldermanic offices, okay? So they can't, they sign the ordinance, it does not automatically create an elected school board because it has to be done through state law.
This question was was initially directed only for Gabe, but I actually want to ask both of you to answer it. And you will have 30 seconds, and we will stick to that this time, okay? What are you going to do for veterans? You can begin.
I think the first thing we have to do is make sure that each veteran has a place to live. Currently in Chicago, there's too many veterans without a place to live. And as you can see in my track record at work, I don't talk, I make sure things get done. I'm gonna make sure every veteran has a place to live.
So what are we going to do for veterans? We just built a veteran building. Matter of fact, we have some people in here that live in the building right down the street that we use TIF dollars to build it with. Yes, we did. We're looking to build more veteran buildings, but also, I was just at a press conference with the mayor. We made a commitment that we're going to make sure every veteran in the city of Chicago have a place to stay. And I'm hoping that I can do it in our ward.
Thank you. This question is for Alderman Burnett. Please, let's get the question out. Okay, are you ready? There we go. Alderman Burnett. Why have you voted 90 to 100% of the time with Mayor Daley and Rahm? Examples, red light cameras, my question is not done, meters, increased taxes, etc.
Well, as far as red light cameras goes, at the time that we voted for red light cameras, how it was presented to us, it was a safety issue, and also it was an issue of keeping the police from writing tickets and putting them back in the community, and God knows we need more police in our community, and that's why I voted for that issue at that time. And as far as the red light cameras, and the meters was also utilized at that time to help balance the city's budget. If we did not vote on the meters at that time, we had an alternative to either vote on the meters or vote for property tax increases for the people in the community. And I chose to vote for the meters instead of the property tax increase for people in the community.
Well, he was just saying, no. A collection. You all talk about that, and I'm gonna go on. Okay, yeah, I got 2 more questions. I'm sorry, I got a little thrown off. My next question is for Alderman Burnett, and this is a very long one. This is a very long question, so please listen carefully and please don't shout out so he won't lose anything, okay? Chicago Board Policies. The 080227 POI is the Board of Education resident policy. At the time that Barbara Bennett was given the position as CEO of schools, Substance News verified that she resided in Cleveland and her address was 38155 Flanders Drive, Solon, Ohio. She was a registered voter in Ohio. Alderman, how and why was this allowed? Why didn't the city council stop this? I will give you 30 seconds unless I feel you should have 15 extra.
All right. Well, the city council don't have control of that. I wasn't aware of that, but I'm sure whenever people are transferred from out of town or out of the country to be able to work for the city of Chicago, they give them some time to get themselves in place and get their residency, get registered to vote, move, all of those things. That happen with corporations and cities all over the world.
Thank you.
Okay, real quick, we appreciate the generosity of Reverend Jakes in the church. Just quietly, what one of his deacons is going to be doing is circulating the basket for whatever you donate. Again, we said electricity and gas is not free, so we appreciate those and you can give. Just please do it quietly as we continue. Thank you.
And I did hear some very inappropriate things being shouted out from the audience. Let's respect the fact that we are still in someone's church and certain words should never come across, okay? Thank you. Upset doesn't give you a position for rudeness, okay? We the people of North Lawndale, this is to both candidates and you'll get 45 seconds to answer, okay? We the people of North Lawndale want to know why our mayor is not working with the people of North Lawndale on the Obama Presidential Library to be built on Roosevelt and Costner. Are they trying to, also, why are they not trying to bring a Walmart here? We the people need the revenue and homeowners. And we're going to start with Gabe.
Personally, I think the mayor stinks, that's why. I don't think this mayor works with the people. I think he's a dictator. I think he's a dictator. I don't think he cares what people think, and that's why I think he needs to go. So that's the short answer. He doesn't work with the people. He makes his own decisions, and we all have to suffer because of it.
Well, I don't know much about what's going on in North Lawndale. That's not in my ward. That's not my concentration. And I have no idea what the mayor is doing in relationship to North Lawndale, or if that proposal is feasible enough for them to even consider it as a library. So I don't know what the details are on that, so it's hard for me to even comment on that.
Just for clarification, as I said earlier, it's a finalist. It's an equal finalist as the UC, University of Hawaii, as well as Columbia University in New York.
I thank you all for your answers, and we're going to have some closing statements by Ramel.
Okay, so one last piece that we want to offer here is for the candidates to ask one another a question, and you all have we'll give you 1 minute, depending on the question that you have to ask of one another. So Gabe, you get to go first. Just one. You guys can set up another time to meet up if you like.
I think my question would be, how are you an independent representative if you vote with a mayor that's been destructive to your community 100% of the time, including red light cameras, parking meters, everything? I mean, you're one of 5 aldermen that have voted 100% of the time with Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel has been destructive to this west side, and you voted 100% of the time with them. How?
Thank you very much. My job is to take care of my ward. My job is to bring resources to our ward. I work with every mayor that's in the city council in order to bring resources to our ward. And if you look at our ward, you look at my track record, you'll see that we have brought a lot of good things to our ward, more than any other ward in the city of Chicago. We have more cranes in this ward than any other ward in the city of Chicago, and I'm very proud of that. And I vote with the mayor. I work with the mayor. Now,
Alderman, pause for a second. You know what? Just pause, because he's receiving an answer. Now, this is something that, he's answering the question, okay? Let him answer his question, please. Let's go ahead and rewind the clock back to 30 seconds. Sorry about that, Alderman.
okay, and then when I don't agree with the mayor, We dialogue about it and we compromise on it. So a lot of things that you all see, you don't see what's going on when we having our dialogue and our compromise about things that we don't agree on. But we always work things out. So I end up voting with the mayor because he ended up working out the issues that I have and the other aldermen have. That's how you do business.
Excuse, ladies and gentlemen, one thing, we are being recorded tonight, and I understand this is a very passionate piece, but the thing is that the reason why we're here tonight is to make a decision on what we're going to do on the 24th. So if whatever feelings we have, whatever we said, we could display it at the ballot box, at the booth, as opposed to disrupting each other, to being disrespectful to each of these candidates, and they trying to explain their point because we're over talking them. You shouting over, so they can't even explain and get their answers out good because we shouting over them. Out of due respect, catch them out at the ballot, but on February the 24th, you exercise your real power, all right? But not in the house of God, being disrespectful to the pastor and all of us who are here to hear something. Thank you.
So, Alderman Burnett, do you have a question for Mr. Gabe Bakinga?
Yeah, I just want to know, did you get fired from your job?
Matter of fact, I did not. I stepped down to fulfill God's calling in my life to beat you and represent the people.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, at this point, it's going to be, because we didn't do the opening statements, they're going to get 2 minutes apiece to go ahead and go with the closing statements. They want to incorporate portions of the opening statement in the closing statement. Who was on the rotation now?
Also, as they're giving their closing remarks, let's hear them out and let's hold our applause or whatever until we finish here and be respectful of the candidates and to each other. Once again, let's hear them out on their closing remarks. Let's give respect to them as they close us out. Thank you.
Alderman Burnett.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank the people of the 27th Ward for giving me the opportunity to serve you over these 20 years. We've been blessed with the favor of God to be able to do some tremendous things in this ward that no one else has been able to do. I'm blessed to have been the longest serving African-American alderman on the west side. All of the other African-American aldermen, I've been there longer than all of them put together because we've been doing a good job. We've been able to turn some communities around. We've been able to turn Greektown around, the near north side around, West Humboldt Park around. We've been able to turn all these communities around. The near west side, we've been making things happen. We've been able to give people jobs. We have many jobs on the drawing board as we speak. I have 4 grocery stores on the drawing board as we speak. I have Google coming to the community. We have the UI lab. We've been leveraging our dollars to get things that happen in our community. All of the things that's happening in the West Humboldt Park area, we made them happen. We made the YMCA come from the north side to the west side. We've been doing link development, making developers contribute money to this area when they do things on the east end and develop over there. So I'm very proud of my track record of all of the things that I've been able to do in the 27th Ward. We've been very fair. We've been very open and transparent. We work with all of the community organizations. I share my power with the community. I'm not a dictator. Any and everything I do, I give it to the community, ask them their input, and then we move from there. So I'm happy to have been able to serve you for these 20 years, and I ask you to please support me for 4 more years. Thank you very much.
I thank everyone for coming out, whether you're supporting me or Alderman Burnett. I think this was a good forum, and you were able to learn stances from both Alderman Burnett and myself. I'm running because God's put it on my heart. I was raised in a Christian home. My mom's a minister. My mom's had ministries in Cook County Correctional Center and homeless shelters, and I never thought I would be trying to get a life of public service, but seeing the social injustice in this city, especially in the 27th Ward, Chicago's been labeled the tale of 2 cities. And the 27th Ward is exactly that. You go on the east end, you've got plenty of development. There's not much going on in the west end. And even on the east end, there's people aren't working. We need somebody, an independent advocate that's going to fight for the people. I don't have any interest other than representing the community and being able to provide better lives for the community. I left a higher paying private sector job. Alderman Burnett can make his comments as he wants about it. I left that job to fulfill God's calling in my life to help the people of the 27th Ward. And if you guys give me a chance, you'll be proud. I promise I'm always going to be here to be your independent advocate. I don't work for the mayor because after I serve a term or two, I could go back in the private sector. I'm not a career public payroller like Alderman Burnett is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kinga. And thank you all for being here. Mr. Brinson, did you want to, Ms. Terry? Thank you for the, and I would like to thank them for the opportunity to moderate this debate. And again, at the same time, give yourselves a hand for coming out here, and hopefully we were able to, share some information with you.